Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Minton, and we made it through 2023, guys. That means I have my favorite reads of the year, my top 10 list, with a few honorable mentions because I'm a booktuber and I can't keep it down to just 10. No way. I read 76 books this year. Pretty good number for me. I'm going to shoot for more next year, but that's not bad. I'm happy with that. And whittling it down to 10 was a true challenge. So some of the things I took in mind, some of the rules I made for myself, I went ahead and instigated the rule of one edition for one author. I didn't want to just do like, here's the Joe Abercrombie section and here's the Brandon Sanderson section. So everybody gets one book so I can kind of spread the love. That made it so much easier for me to get so many tastes and flavors of different books and people, writers in there. And it made me much happier and easier. So I could finally get this done. The other thing is I kind of put aside some of my ratings from some of my reviews and things because as time went on, there were some books that with a little space and a little bit of time, I kept going back to. I kept thinking about moments. I kept remembering themes. I kept being drawn to a character's journey. So that would kind of edge up on this list some books that, might have scored under some of it. I threw all that out and I kind of just went back just from my emotional response and feelings after getting some time from all my reads of the year and put this list together. So here we go. We're going to start with honorable mentions. And my first honorable mention, I read this in October for Spooky Reads, Christopher Farnworth's Reunion. Sometimes you just want a sugary rush. You just want a family-sized share bag of peanut M&Ms. And this kind of read is exactly that. It is sweet. It is crunchy. It is fun. It is full of sugar. And I mean, what can I say about this? It takes icons. It takes the warrior princess from the Feyland. It takes a new young wizard in the mold in the mold of Merlin. It takes a genius inventor like a young Tony Stark, and it takes a young female detective like Nancy Drew. It puts them into high school together where they have to stop the ultimate evil. And now years later, they're being called back for the reunion, their high school reunion. And they did not quite stop that evil that they thought they did when they were kids. And they're getting called back to do it one more time. It was just so much fun. I absolutely loved it. Christopher Farnsworth is a screenwriter, so the pace is just quick and fast and fun, and I have great memories of this from my spooky read season, and that is why it makes it on my honorable mention. Also, these didn't make the top 10 list, but they were so close, and that is the comics work of James Tynion IV. World Tree and Nice House on the Lake, the first 2 volumes are out. These both just such great atmospheric cosmic horror with a good bunch of mystery, wonderful character arcs, amazing artwork as well as you go through them. If you're thinking that, comics are just repeating themselves. I've read Batman, I've read Superman, I've read Spider-Man. Some of these stories just come back around over and over again. Find some passion projects of good writers and working in comics. James Tynion, I highly recommend. If you're looking for that cosmic horror itch, if you're looking for that mystery itch, if you're looking for some sequential artwork in your storytelling just as a palate cleanser, this was great. I enjoyed both of these series this year. This is continuing. The first 5, the first story arc is done, and number 6 just came out. So this is they're both continuing. I think this is going further as well. My last honorable mention, this almost was this close to making it in my top 10. And I wish I had a top 11 because I loved it so much. I'm talking about Jacqueline Hagan's book, The Wickwire Watch, number 1 of the Riverfall Chronicles. This book was phenomenal. It's such a genre blender. If you're looking for gas lamp fantasy, if you're looking for a little bit of steampunk fantasy feel, if you're looking for some type of Dickensian feel to your literature, if you're looking for lovely prose, if you're looking for a touch of mystery, if you're looking for a huge heaping helping of political intrigue and not knowing whose story is right and who to trust, and at the end, you're looking for a little bit of that interdimensional horror in there as well. This has it all. What an amazing start to what I think is going to be an amazing series. And by the way, this is a debut. I was floored by how good this was. I cannot wait to get back to this series. I have the second book, Spider Key, set up for next month, I believe. And I cannot stress enough, if you've not tried self-pub, this actually is a SPIFFBO finalist this year. So it's not only me that is ringing all the bells on how great this one is. If you have not tried self-pub, if you have not tried this particular self-pub, I cannot stress enough, please give it a chance. It is so good, and it opened my eyes to what self-pub could be. It was one of the first self-pubs that I grabbed and read as I started my booktube journey. So this, it was so close. I agonized over not getting it over into the top 10, but it just didn't make it. It just didn't make it. And that's it for my honorable mentions. And I think when you'll see what number 10 is, you'll absolutely know how this didn't make it and got edged out. Coming in at number 10 is Servant of the Empire by Raymond E. Feist and Janny Wirtz. I joined a buddy read this year, and I loved the Rift War Saga stuff when it first came out. I was reading it when it first hit the shelves. I hadn't read any of it in so long, and I joined a buddy read to read the second trilogy that can stand alone if you haven't read anything else. And this is on the flip side of the Rift in the Rift War. And I was just gobsmacked by how good it was. This is the second book, or this is actually the first book. The Servant of the Empire is the first book in that. Nope, second book. Daughter was first. Servant is the second book. And a lot of people weren't as high on the second book. I actually loved it. This trilogy checks in on a woman's life as she grows. It starts when she's about 17, 18, about to join a monastery. Book 2 is she's acquired the ruling seat of her house. It's an Asian-influenced fantasy, so it's very kind of Bushido honor code, and she's ruling her house after all of her family was killed in the Rift War. The second book picks up there. The second book also has a love story, which some people weren't hot on. I actually loved it. One, because I'm a softie, and two, because it had such an amazing theme of East meets West and how we're more alike than we want to admit, and where we are different. If we accept how we're different and explore that a little bit, we can be stronger for our differences as opposed to diametrically on the opposite sides because of those differences. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely love the overall structure of this trilogy of checking in on this woman's life as she changes the very world around her, moving up in the ruling class. If you have not tried this, if you've not tried Rift War, you don't have to. If you're not a fan of Raymond Feist, you don't have to be. Janny Wirtz brings something I think that is truly magical writing along with him, and I cannot stress enough how much I love this trilogy, and the second book in particular, Servant of the Empire. At the end, there were tears. That's all I'm going to say. So, coming in at number 9, I'm going to go with Justin Cronin's The Ferryman. This was a great sci-fi read, and that it kept a lot of it hidden. The central character, the main protagonist, I absolutely connected with. He was kind of a man of my age, kind of looking around, feeling like, is this all there is? How did I get here? Is this all there is to life? What else is? And things start to happen, and things start to pull his attention here and there about there is more than what I think is going on. And then when the shoes start to drop of what actual reality is, and what is going on, and how all these mysteries coalesce around him. It's a great, great social mirror book of class system and how we structure our society. At the same time, there's a central mystery that I did not see coming. I knew there was a mystery, but I did not see the resolution of it coming, and when it did come, I was absolutely bowled over and loved it. Justin Cronin is one of my favorite writers, and he did not disappoint me here. That is why this comes in at number 9 for me. Coming in at number 8, I have another self-pub choice, and that is Philip Chase's The Way of Edan. I was absolutely smitten with this book when I read it. Dr. Chase walks such an amazing tightrope of giving you that classical feel to the fantasy, and at the same time, making it so modern that it never bogs down and is such a page turner. You never bog down in the language, even though every step of the way gives you that classical feel. It revolves around the importance of story in our lives and how important story can be to a character's arc and the world around him, and how that revolves in a spiritual journey and how spirituality and faith factors in through all of this holy war that is brewing and going on. This is another self-pub series. I cannot wait to pick up book 2 in. I have all 3, and book 2 will be picked up very quickly. And what I hear is books 2 and 3 are even better. This book left me breathless. I was absolutely enthralled. It's everything I want from a fantasy, being a fan of Tolkien and classical fantasy going all the way back, with that modern pace and sense of character that I absolutely loved. I implore you to give this a try. Coming in at number 7 is A Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle. I am wrapping up this trilogy right now as we speak. This trilogy made it onto my favorite fantasy series list because it is so engaging. This is a military Asian-influenced fantasy, but it still gives you flashes of conflict from all over. You get a feeling of Ireland and the Troubles. You get a feeling of storming Omaha Beach. You get such shades of history from so many different places in conflict. Not only conflict and invasion, but the resistance that rises up during the occupation. And not only military fantasy through the eyes of military characters, but also just regular characters trying to live through this occupation and just make it day to day, and how the history is going to pull on them to be heroes of their time. And it's that wonderful grimdark reality of, even as it pulls on these peoples to be heroes, how far will they go to achieve their mission? We get into some amazingly morally gray character arcs here, very complex, wonderful moral questions that you ask as you read your way through this, that you'll go, wow, I don't think I could have done anything different, but still, wow. It is just a powerhouse of a grimdark military fantasy trilogy, and he absolutely sticks that rule of you have to put your characters through the meat grinder. If they make it through a hard situation, it is only because they have something more arduous on the horizon for them. And if you have not given this a try yet, this is a fabulous grimdark Asian-inspired military trilogy that I think, if that is your bag, baby, you will absolutely love it. Coming in at number 6, oh my God, I discovered this month, or last month, it's January. This last month, December, the last month of the year, everyone's been telling me about it. This comes in, makes my list at number 6, Dungeon Crawler Carl. I didn't know I was a lit RPG fan. I had read one other lit RPG, but it was not this. The humor, the satire. Yes, it's a lit RPG. You get every bit of goodness that you get if you're a video game fan. You get a character arc that is leveling up and way out of their depth. Crazy characters. You get laugh out loud funny, but at the same time, you get an interesting structure and a bedrock of satire, because this is an apocalyptic tale. The aliens have smushed flat everything on the planet, and they have taken what's left and they have built a dungeon underground out of this, what was left when they smushed everything. And who is left, who can make it to the doors of this dungeon, is what's left of humanity for a TV show that's galaxy wide. And the dungeon crawlers start getting fans, and they start getting people give them loot boxes, and they start progressing forward. And it is an absolute riot if you're a video game fan. And at the same time, you've got that level of satire. The company that is running the dungeon this time, and a different company runs it every season, the inner working politics of that company, as opposed to other companies that tend to run the show sometimes, and what's going on behind the scenes. You just get some little inklings of it here in book 1, but I can't wait to continue, as this, I hope, will broaden, and this level of satire will be there. And my breakout character of the year, Grand Champion Princess Donut. If you know, you know. If you don't, for the love of all, find out. This is absolutely wonderful. If you're a fan of audiobooks, an amazing, amazing audiobook by Jeff Hayes. So that brings us to number 5. We're halfway through it, guys. There is no way I could not have put this together without having some Joe Abercrombie. And I am going to pull out Before They Are Hanged. This is book 2 in the First Law trilogy. And I was so in love with this trilogy. I found Grimdark to be just my speed this year. I absolutely adored it. I absolutely adored his attempt to bring his own spin to a classical fantasy. He took all the tropes. He took so many moments that we know and love from some T.H. White and some classic literature as well as classic films, and he distilled them through his lens and made it just brand new. I absolutely adored it. I absolutely adored where he started with those tropes and then by the end subverted them. And did I say end? The end of this book just left my jaw on the floor. A grand quest that ends with what? Are you kidding me? The stones on this guy, like he subverted it and it was amazing, and hats off to him for doing that. Also, he is absolutely a king of voice. So much of the humor in this comes from the character arcs. Where they start is not where they're going to end up. Even by book 2, people that you thought were, oh man, I'm not really into that guy, you will be rooting for as you see them change by book 2. And the voice, the character voice that Joe Abercrombie brings to each character is laugh out loud funny. And the genius stroke of taking the best character in this trilogy, Glotka, a chewed up torturer, and including his inner monologue. So not only do you get the voice of what he's saying to characters, you get the voice what he's really thinking, and that makes for a laugh out loud read. I cannot wait to continue in the standalones and then the second trilogy with People Say are even better, which I can't understand how that's possible. But wow, I love discovering this author this year as I joined BookTube. If you have not done this, and it may just be me that has not done Joe Abercrombie, but I cannot recommend this enough, and that is why this came in at my number 5. Number 4, again, somebody that's no mysterious person to BookTube. That is Christopher Rocchio and the beginning of the Sun Eater Saga, Empire of Silence. I started the Sun Eater Saga a couple months ago. I was lucky enough to get a chance to talk to Christopher on the channel, and I was just blown away. Not only the world building, but the galaxy level empire world building, the meticulous character arcs, the slow burn of it. Hadrian Marlowe as he leaves his aristocratic background and goes on to his journey of self-discovery that somewhat mirrors Siddhartha as he moves on to his enlightenment as the Buddha. I found it just absolutely fascinating. And also he includes the importance of story in his world building, our myths, our legends of who we come from, our very histories distilled through these thousands of years as we've left it behind, and how they still permeate everything about our culture and how we see things. I found it to be absolutely amazing. I love Hadrian Marlowe. I love the journey, and I cannot wait to continue. And I love at the end a little bit of mystery, not only the lore and the history of us as a galactic empire, but there's something else out there, and I can't wait to find out exactly what it is. And this, what a start. I know he wears his influences on his sleeve, but he puts them through a funhouse mirror that only works in the head of Christopher Rocchio, and we are all richer for it. If you have not started this, if you're a fan of sci-fi and you want something that's completely different and yet at the same time you will recognize it and be comfortable, this is absolutely amazing, and that is why it was my number 4, and my mind continues to come back to it. It's one of those reads where as you're going, the prose S tier level, and you just got to set it down and go, I gotta let the wheels turn a little bit to catch up to that. This is a book for you. Coming in at number 3, just wrap this read up as well. This was voted for me as my birthday read, this trilogy. I started with The Winter King, but for me, the best of the trilogy is the third book, Excalibur. This comes in at number 3 for me because like I said before, guys, I'm a softie, and I have those rose-colored glasses that I see magic in the world everywhere. And even though people will tell you this is historical fiction, to me, it is firmly, firmly in the fantasy camp. I came up through the theater, and what I was taught always, 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 if there's a question for what to do, the answer is in the words. The writer gave it to you. It's in the text. And if you read the text here, there is too much cause and effect for what Merlin's doing at the end of Arthur's life here that just lets you know there is magic in the world. There is a magic system. The magic system is our ideals of faith. As monotheism comes into this pagan world, there is an uncomfortable jockeying back and forth, an absolute war of old gods to new. And what will we do? Where will you side? Why will you side there? And the fulcrum of it all comes down to one man making a simple decision for his love, and where he has to fall makes the rest of the Isle of Britain fall. And it was just phenomenal, so deep in its themes, so lovely, such an amazing look at faith as a magic system, as these people, through their ideas of faith, organize their entire definition of their reality. It is magic, and I absolutely adored it, and I cannot stress enough, this is an amazing. Don't think of it as historical fantasy if that turns you off and makes you think it sounds a little dry. No, there is magic in these books, my friend. Give them a try, and that is why it came in at my number 3. There's only 2 left. And if you watch this channel, you know which 2 they probably are. But where will they fall? Okay, no more fooling around. Number 2, Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. This is the penultimate edition of the Red Rising trilogy. I caught up with the entire trilogy this year, so I would be ready when this book came out to read it the month it came out. And what a ride. This was everything I was hoping for. You had characters coming back together. You had nonstop action and a thrill ride of a pace that Pierce Brown always gives you. You had the look at cost of war and conflict and what it does to a human society. You had themes about are we as a human society even worthy of carrying on into the far future? You had themes of fatherhood and family and honor and brotherhood and what you will do, what moral compass, how do you see the future of our kind, and what will you do to achieve it, and what side will you fall on? Intermingled through all this, going all the way through the middle, was Darrow's slow down and character moments and a spiritual journey as he owned and became comfortable with all of his past decisions and mistakes. He's now a fully formed man, not a young Turk of a revolutionary where he started in Red Rising. He's a fully formed warrior that understands the toll and the cost of what he's been through, not only to himself, but the society writ large. And he's more Macbeth in Act 5, looking back over his journey and what it has wrought. And it's just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful at every moment. I cannot recommend it high enough. That is why it is my number 2. For most of the year, it was my number 1 choice. I was on so many people's channels saying it was my number 1 pick of the year, but that is only because I finished Words of Radiance the last 2 weeks of December. And this has to take the cake for my number 1 read of the year. What draws us to this genre? What makes us pick up book after book on this journey as a reader in this genre? So much of it is character. So much of it is world building. So much of it is plot. But when you get one of those reads that for me was lightning in a bottle that takes every one of those elements and just makes them work together in perfect synchronicity, it's such a special read. There is no stone left unturned with this world building. Society's fashion, just ecology, economy, social strata, history and lore. Every single part is covered, and not only is it covered, it's covered in a way that makes it so important to every character arc, makes it so important to the plot itself. As we go through this chunker of a book and we discover this world that has gone through this cycle of cataclysm and rebirth, and we start to understand how this happens, and we start to understand why the rebirth is, and we start to understand either through ecclesiastical style visions or scholarship or just doing what you think is right on a moral compass level, and you come to discover human relationship. You start to uncover these mysteries of this world, and the world building informs everything, character, plot itself. And let's talk about these character plots. Not only do you have characters, you have complex, interesting characters that are carrying guilt and wounds from their past that they're having to overcome. On both sides, everyone's doing what they absolutely think is best for their world. They're doing absolutely what they're answering to their conscience the best they possibly can when they look in that mirror. They're carrying the wounds that they have to overcome. And it doesn't matter on what side of the spectrum you as a reader see them on, they are still understandable and complex characters that are being driven by the very world building that is around them as they discover this cycle that they're currently living through that's coming back around. And the Sanderlanche at the end was everything I was hoping for, not only because it is an unstopping landslide of action, but also at the end in the Sanderlanche, there is a monumental slowdown of a character moment of somebody coming to a realization and coming to enlightenment and stepping up in what they know they're supposed to be and accepting it. Just a beautiful character moment. This will stick with me for a long time. I cannot wait to continue my Cosmere catch-up. And this is my number one favorite read of the year. Last year for me, it was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. This book will be going right up here, right in the middle. I'm going to switch that out because this left a mark on me. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for spending time with me on this top 10 list. Let me know what your top read of the year was. Let me know what I have missed, what I should be doing early here in 2024. I absolutely adore comments. I will answer each and every one of them as quickly as I possibly can. If this is your first time here, or you've come by a couple times and you haven't hit that little thumbs up button there, that like button and the subscribe button, take a second. Click those. Feels right. It just feels good. And I promise you, you're going to want to be around for the ride because I have so many great books lined up for 2024 and we can go through them together. Thank you so much. I have adored my time on Book Read. My name is John Minton. This has been Talking Story.